Dunkin' Donuts. I heard they brought them. Where they at? Where they at?
Hey, what's your
Attaboy. Huh? What's it say on the box? Hashtag winning behavior. That's right. That is good. Our rookies just learned about it. All right. Happy Friday. Good to see everybody. Obviously, rookies got in yesterday. We had some meetings. We're there in meetings right now. We'll get on the grass the next 2 days with them. Sunday will be they'll be in the building but not on the grass. And then Monday they'll get right into it with the vets for I guess we're in phase 2 now. So 2 more weeks of phase 2. After Memorial Day, we'll start our OTAs where we can go against each other. We'll have 3 weeks of that and then no break. So 5 more weeks off-season program, 5 weeks of kind of vacation, not vacation, but 5 weeks off, 5 weeks of camp, and it's going to hit you like a train really quick. So a lot of urgency, every second counts, and we're going about our business.
JG, with rookie minicamp, do you feel like the kind of the way you approach it is unique to you? Do you think this is kind of where the league has gone? I mean, once upon a time, there used to be a lot more to rookie minicamp. It feels like it's been dialed back a little bit.
Yeah, teach their own, not one right or wrong way to do it. We got a couple things that we want to get out of it, how we do it, and I think it's set up that we get that. I've been a part of a lot of different ways that it's been done. We kind of settled on this since we've been here, and it's changed. Our first year we did something a little different. This year it looks a little different, but hopefully for obviously the players' best interest. But I do have an understanding of they're in the building for the first time in a new city for the first time. A lot of cortisol. Their cortisol levels are high right now, so I'm really not trying to kill them. But I do want them to acclimate with how we do things because on Monday they're going to jump in with the vets, and I don't want them to stick out not knowing what to do. So they got to get caught up to speed pretty quick here.
You mentioned teaching them about winning behavior. What are the very first things that you want to instill in your rookies in terms of the beliefs that you guys have as an organization? Team
first and maximize yourself as a player.
With a guy like Denzel, he's got a lot of experience. He played a lot. A lot of people, given how many cornerbacks you guys have collected, that was a little bit of a surprise for some people. What did you like about him in particular that you're like, this makes sense here and adding up to?
Yeah, first, the character, really good guy, really smart. He's played at the highest level. He's played a lot of ball, as you mentioned. We liked his skill set. Thought he was a scheme fit. Thought he was a Cardinal. Felt really good about adding him where we added him.
You always talk about how you expect a lot more out of your corners than other teams do. I think you have 8 techniques, other teams have 4, something like that.
Everyone has a lot of techniques, yeah.
Will Johnson, how do you think he will adapt to kind of what you throw at him, what this team demands out of the corner?
We'll see. Really well. I do expect there will be a learning curve with him and Denzel as well. But those 2 guys, not just Will, but Denzel as well, really smart. You know what I mean? They understand football. They understand structures. They understand what we're trying to get done. Now, there will be a learning curve. But it'll just get on the grass with them, see what they can do. And, just like all the rookies, get them caught up to speed with what they need to know to go out and play well.
Aside from scheme, what's the biggest challenge for corners going from college football to,
Oh, man, I could talk for a while for that. Yeah, that's a good question, Josh. I think obviously they are arguably the best athletes on the field. They're covering them. A lot of times they don't have a lot of help. And I think that there's good receivers in college and there's good quarterbacks in college. What I'm about to say, I don't want that to be misconstrued, but this is the best of the best. So if you get beat, the ball's going to find you. Where in college, I don't see that all the time. You know what I mean? For all kinds of reasons. But, the quarterbacks here can stand in the pocket and deliver the ball accurately on time. That's an adjustment for those guys. There's not a lot of time to make up ground throughout the down to win that down up here. And then, obviously learning a new scheme, a new system, and new techniques too. We allow those guys to play with some different answers, so to speak. It's not, this is what I want to do and this is how you're going to do it. It's what fits best for you as it relates to the defense. You got to get this done within the scheme. But there's a couple different ways you can do that. Denzel might look a little different than Will. They might look a little different than Keytrell or Max, so that's cool. But they got to get done what they need to get done. So it'll be an adjustment for them, but, lining up and covering a guy, they've been doing it for a while. That doesn't change as much, but what changes is they're going to look up and the ball's going to be on them.
Coach, you say often he's a Cardinal. You've addressed that before, but what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a good question, Greg. I mean, that's another answer I could take for this it's this. Everyone, Michael talked, Monty talked, I talked yesterday, right? And the goal obviously is to win, right? But if you don't win, or if you do win, and your thought process is after that happens is oh well, so be it. Like I don't get down with that. So we try to define that as this, like winning behavior versus non-winning behavior. And that goes into on a day-to-day basis, both inside the gates and outside the gates. And are you willing to maximize yourself as a player in the areas that we want you to maximize yourself? And typically when I say this guy's a Cardinal, when we draft these guys, there's a lot of work done on that to make sure those check out. Not to say they always stay in alignment. I say when they don't do that, they get out of alignment. You got to snap them back in alignment. Not to say that they're going to be ready-made right now. We have some that are like that. Not all of them are like that, and that's okay. They just got to assimilate into how we do things here. Because it's different. All 32 buildings are different. All 32 head coaches are different. You know what I mean? It's just kind of what we hang our hat on here. So, being a good dude with being a good person outside the gates, being a good dude inside the gates is being team first and displaying winning behavior and maximizing your buckets. That's what we're looking for.
Understanding, of course, there's competition at all these positions, rookie or whatever. The way you guys have built up your roster, is the team in a better place where you don't necessarily have to rely on a rookie, whoever it might be, because you've built up the roster? So do you feel like that you're in a better place, or do you not think of it in terms of that? It's just
I don't think of it in terms like that. I look in terms of right now the phase that they're in, are they're competing for their roles. That's not just the rookies, that's everybody. We define their roles going into week one. Roles can change, as you guys know, up and down daily. No, I look at it as we are trying to, have as many competition battles in as many groups on the roster as possible, and then kind of the best players play, and I think, when you create a standard that they understand what they're accountable for, they like that, and they're not in the know. They're not, asking questions, well, why did this happen or why did that happen? They know very clearly why their role was defined as how it was defined. But we're a long way away from defining roles right now. So they're in the competing phase right now.
Last season was in college football was the first time that in-helmet communication was approved between a defensive coordinator and a Mike linebacker. How much of an advantage does that provide to a guy like Cody Simon coming into this part of his career, if at all?
Probably a little bit, a year of experience doing it, but there's the adjustment period, if you've never done that, is real. I've never, trying to think, I've never really been around a guy that couldn't really handle that. It's not probably as in-depth as the coach to quarterback as the Nick Rallis to the green dot. But it is real. You got to hear it and you got to communicate it. And but does that give him an advantage? Maybe a touch. But if the guys have never done it, Kaiser White never did it. You know what I mean? We put it right in his ear and he was fine. You know what I mean? So, it's something that we'll look at and make sure that they're functioning well and operating well. But that won't be the tough part for them.
How's Steve
is the learning curve for a rookie to be able to contribute?
Steep. Yeah, we're in meetings yesterday. I'm like, man, like there's a lot these guys got to know. Kind of forget sometimes, but it's steep. Because they're playing. They're gonna now. It's football at the end of the day, right? But it's a new scheme. It's new techniques. It's new, guys teaching them. How they're delivering their message. There's different expectations. There's different standards. From where they're coming from. So I don't think that it's easy. I don't think that, and the guys that can get hip quick typically play pretty early. You know what I mean? If their skill set allows, which all of them obviously have a skill set, that's why they're here. But in between your ears is what separates, a lot of guys. So they got a long way to go. When
it comes to Hayden Connor, what he did in the college football playoff, jumping in the center, what did you think about that? What does it show you about him? What stood out about that?
I mean, emotional stability. I would have been freaked out, Yeah, he's uber smart, he'll do anything for the team. And he's smart enough to know a bunch of spots, which is always, that brings any player that can play multiple positions adds value to the team. So that's cool.
Do you think they realize the steep learning curve when they arrive, or does it hit them pretty hard?
They probably did last night, and then it's going to get worse the next 2 days here. But they'll be fine. They'll get caught up. They know.
Is corner green dot? How big a transition do you consider that on defense at college level than doing that at the NFL as a rookie?
Yeah, I don't know what Knowles was calling at Ohio State for him, if you're talking about Cody specifically, but defense is defense. It's just different terminology, so you just got to learn the terminology and things like that. I do think one of my things with Nick is we got to make sure we don't get too wordy, So to keep it tight for those guys, I'm always kind of aware of that. How long is the play call, And it can get wordy at times, and it needs to be at times. But so we try to keep it tight for those guys. But like I said, once they do it in practice, they typically get pretty quick at functioning.
Is corner, you were talking about the transition that they face, is that the hardest position you think maybe outside of quarterback to make the transition from college to pro, or is it maybe a different spot?
That's a good question. I probably don't have enough experience to answer that one. I mean, I think there's all positions. There's a learning curve, honestly. Quarterback, I would say, would be the hardest, but they're all a little bit different. They all provide different challenges too. What Walter, the adjustment that he's going to have to make is different than Hayden, and different than Denzel or Will or, whoever, Jordan. So I think the main thing is control the controllables and just make sure that the coaches do a really good job of that. They really know what's going on, and then my job is, as far as how we're operating on a daily basis, that they fit in and blend in with how we want them to act, truthfully. So, but, quick little side story here. I think the first meeting was at 8, and all of them were here meeting early. You know what I mean? So they know they need to get caught up to have a chance, so they'll max it out.
Since you're not in that phase where you can line up from defense with offense, what can a guy like Jordan Burke show you this early on?
Knowledge first, you know what I mean? How quick is he picking things up? And then we'll get on the grass and see how he moves and see if he can apply the techniques that we're using and improve the things that we think that he needs to improve to be a good player for us, So, the old adage of you're getting better, you're getting worse is probably true. So I want to make sure through the next 5 weeks that we're with these guys, that wherever they're at today, and this is my job and the coach's job, everybody in the building's job, is to make sure that they keep ascending and become better players. You know what I mean? For today through when we go on break. So, and you gotta pour all in, and all the avenues that we can do that, we got to do it.
It's often brought up in education that smaller class sizes help the student. the fact that you have a relatively small rookie group, do you think that benefits them because of the focus that you can give each of these guys?
Yeah, maybe right now, but they won't get the focus of. But the schedule's set up in a way that they'll be in with the vets, and then they'll get some alone time too. You know what I mean? So they'll be caught up. I'm not worried about it. But it is a lot for them right now. But they'll get caught up.
Think about the adjustment that guys have to make. I'm always thinking about the mental stuff and the schedule stuff. But now I'm thinking about a guy like Nolan who's playing in the trenches. How much bigger and stronger are the linemen? Like, how much bigger and stronger are the guys at this level as compared to the previous?
I mean, it's the best of the best. You know what I mean? So it is an adjustment. There's definitely a mental and a physical adjustment for those guys when you're playing in the NFL.
With both Walt and Jordan Burch, they're both seen as very high ceiling, hyper talented guys. How much do you see those selections as a vote of confidence in the new defensive line coaches that you guys have brought in this offseason?
Yeah, I feel good about all our coaches.
When you look at the off-season additions and just how loaded some of the position groups are, what does that do to the compete level this year? And maybe not now, maybe going into training camp, and especially versus a couple of years ago. Do you think that'll translate in terms of the compete level in camp? And so
Competition should elevate everybody's game, so that's what you're kind of looking to do. So if there's more competition in a room, great, because they all better elevate their game, if they want to define a role for themselves.
With the way that college football is now, guys transferring a bunch, do you see it as an advantage for guys who have moved different schools coming here and jumping into a new situation, kind of meeting new people like that? I mean, they've already done it once or twice.
Yeah, I think there's positives and negatives of it, So if I was going to put a positive spin on it, yes, Walt has already been on, a new team and had to meet new faces. And what's the vice president of PR's name? Mark Dalton. You know what I mean? You got to know his name. You know what I mean? He's already done that. So new scheme, new coaches, new way of doing things, new city, all that stuff. So it can be an advantage.
Coach, in your time in field, did Nick Sirianni ever pass down the philosophy of PFP, players from formation plays?
What was the philosophy?
Players, formation plays, more so dictating a game plan around maybe like a player as opposed to just lining up plays.
Yeah, I always put that in my terms. I mean, I wasn't in offensive meetings, but get the ball to your best players. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Coach, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys. We'll see you on the grass. Maybe I'll go get a donut.